Welcome back to Delicious and Nutritious. Here at Delicious and Nutritious, we use the best quality ingredients to cook the tastiest food. I am going to be your chef, Billy Lutz. So today what we're gonna do, are you guys ready for this? We are getting into avocado key lime pie recipes. They're gonna be cupcakes and they are no bake. So we do not need to bake these. So if you guys are like, I don't bake, I don't like to bake, you don't need to bake anything. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna need some ingredients, obviously. So we have two steps that are gonna go down in this process. Number one, we have to make the crust. First thing I'm gonna recommend for you guys is, before I get into the ingredients, is a silicone cupcake tray. I don't recommend cooking in this, but this is amazing for this recipe. You guys will see when we're done, and you can just squeeze basically and manipulate this to get the cupcakes out. If you don't have it, what I would suggest doing is using this brand. So this is gonna be If You Care. Absolutely love these. These are going to be cupcake fillers. So let's get into the ingredients right now. So we have 1 cup of sprouted sunflower seeds, 1 cup of sprouted pumpkin seeds, and we're gonna use walnuts today. So for me, I'm gonna go with 2 cups of walnuts, and then we're gonna need 4 to 5 dates. I choose medjool dates. They have a really high mineral content. So when you get this type of natural sugar, it's going to be accompanied by a lot of minerals. We're gonna need 8 tablespoons of coconut oil, and then finally a teaspoon of salt. So that's gonna be for the crust. And as far as the filling goes, I have 3 avocados right here. It's calling for 1. You can choose what you do want. So I am going to do probably 2 avocados and then see how much it's going to produce, because I kind of like a little bit more of the filling than it is compared to the crust. This recipe is asking for a can of coconut milk. And then this recipe, there's 2 things you can do. If you guys are keto out there, you can do stevia. It says 10 drops, or you can do organic monk fruit. This is gonna be monk fruit. I do like this one. A little bit better than stevia for me personally. Or if you're not going keto, you can do maple syrup. So those are options for you guys. I would say if you're using the monk fruit or the stevia, having the milk is gonna be important, but if you're going to use some maple syrup, it may not be important. And then also, ideally, we would have a food processor, but I can also use a blender. Not the most ideal, but the food processor really works those dates and the crust together. So let's jump right into the recipe. I'm excited to do this with you guys. And then finally, one last ingredient I didn't mention is gonna be cinnamon. I love cinnamon. I'm going to put this in the crust. It is not mentioned here. So cinnamon for me is going into the crust. I think it brings about quite a delightful flavor. And the last ingredient is obviously going to be limes. We need our limes. So I have little baby limes here. Limes can get quite big. So this is calling for the juice and also the zest. Zest is basically you use the skin and you go here. That's why organic is very important right now, because we're gonna be eating the rind in this one. If you don't want to zest, another alternative is going to be using an essential oil, organic, steam distilled, please no chemicals, but if it's an organic process, it's not gonna have chemicals. Here we go. We are now going to make the crust. So we are going to take our nuts. So for this recipe, for me, I'm gonna do 1.5 cups. Then we're gonna go for the dates. We need pitted. I don't believe these are pitted. You can buy pitted ones, but if they're not, is all you have to do is kind of just push them. We are going to need a total of 4 or 5. I'm gonna go with 5. It's requesting that we put in 8 tablespoons of coconut oil. So what I do is I just put this into the oven for a little bit. Be very careful taking it out, and the jar is a little bit hot right now, so I'm gonna go in with a little bit less than 1/2 cup. 8 tablespoons is approximately 1/2 cup. The reason why I always start with a little bit less is because you can always add more after we start. Then we are going for the salt. Remember, Himalayan sea salt or gray salt are very important. The recipe recommends a teaspoon of that. I am just gonna go ahead and follow that because we do have sweetness. A little bit less than a teaspoon there. And then finally, we are looking for cinnamon. I'm going with 1/2 teaspoon here, a little bit less. I love cinnamon. I think it's great. I think it adds a little bit of graham cracker taste here. Remember, we're not cooking this. Not cooking this. We are going to pulse blend this together, and then we're gonna freeze it while we make the fillings, and then we're gonna come back. Everything's together. We have it in our blender. We're gonna wanna pulse this. So if you do need to pulse, what I suggest doing is grinding and then shaking. The goal is not to turn it into this liquid. We don't want it to be a liquid. We're gonna try our best not to get it into a liquid. So if we open this up right here, there we go. We got a little bit of blended. That's a good consistency for me. Next up, we're gonna need our silicone muffin tray. We are going to scoop this into here, or you can just use your hands depending on whatever you prefer. All right, here we go. So remember, we have to get 12. We are now going to go here and push this down, kind of even out everything. And some of you guys may be seeing this like, wow, it's a little bit liquidy. That's why this is no bake, because we're gonna put this in the freezer while we make the filling process. All right, number 1 is done right there. We have everything in, and we are gonna take this and put it straight into the freezer while we start up with the filling for the key lime part. Next, you guys ready for this? It's gonna be super easy. You guys are gonna be blown away by how easy this recipe is, because that was already the crust. The crust is done. It's freezing in the process. All right, let's get down. 2 avocados I'm going with. I want a little bit more. Remember, go around once and go around twice. You don't need to do all that, you know, cut it in half and then stick a knife in it. All you gotta do is peel it and break it to the side, and you have easy avocados going right into the blender right there. These ones are perfect. They come right out. They're not leaving any remnants in the peel, just a little bit there. You could just use your thumb, get that out. We have our 2 avocados sitting in the blender right now. Next is going to be the limes. It's calling for 2 juiced and zest, so I'm gonna go with 3. We're just gonna score it all the way around and through, just like this. Score, 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 score. I can just squeeze this right in here. I have a bowl right there, but I don't really need to do that. I'm gonna squeeze right in here, and then you're gonna wanna save these because we're gonna zest them as well, or you can use the essential oil that we talked about. And there you have it. They are all juiced in there, and now we're gonna zest it. So we're gonna take our grater, and this is gonna be the smaller part, and we're just going to rub the peel over the top of it. So the easier way to do this would be if you don't cut it first and then you zest it first. Is gonna make that process a whole lot easier. Look at that. This is gonna be what it looked like after it was cut. It's very difficult to hold. We can zest this entire thing before we cut it. Gives you a whole lot easier way of gripping it, more firmness. And then if you look right there, look at all that zest right there. And then we're just gonna want to get that in to this recipe as well. Now that we have this right here, you're gonna have to decide, are you going to go with the maple syrup or are you gonna go with the stevia? So for this recipe, I'm gonna use an 1/8 cup, very minimal amount of maple syrup. Gonna go ahead and pour that in there. And then I am going to use about an 1/8 cup, and then we can check it out and you can see how thick it is. I'm gonna go a little bit more, a little bit under a 1/4 cup of the oat milk. And then we're gonna blend all of this together. So if we take this out, ooh, look at that. That is pretty. That is the key lime pie winning recipe right there. And coming back, we now have our semi-frozen, look at that, it's already hard just by making this crust of the key lime pie. So now we are going to scoop each one in here. Alrighty guys, this is now gonna go into the freezer. And we are officially finished right out of the freezer avocado key lime pies. So there you guys go. And the wonderful thing about using the silicone is all you have to do is peel it, and there you have it. An avocado key lime pie, absolutely delicious and nutritious. So ideally, to serve this, what you're gonna do, you leave it in the freezer until about 5 minutes before you're gonna serve it. Then you bring them out, you pop all of these out, and then you put them on a plate. You don't want them to unfreeze too much. So you have to be very delicate about when these are coming out and when they're serving, because like we talked about, we didn't bake these. They're not hard. They're literally just frozen. So delicious and nutritious. Super good. So thank you guys for taking some time out for cooking with me today. I'm excited to cook some more delicious and nutritious recipes with you guys so we can start changing the world one bite at a time.